My garage is absolutely packed full of stuff, and unfortunately the shelves I'm currently using just don't cut the mustard anymore. So in this video I'm going to walk you through the building of my floating cantilever shelves. Upon measuring the space that I wanted to put the shelves, I decided that I would need 7 lengths of CLS timber that would attach to the wall. The CLS timber that I had was all mismatching lengths, but because I was making my shelves floating, I didn't require the full 2.4 metre length that new ones come in. So I cut all of these ones down to match the shortest length that I had. Once that was done, I marked them all out where I wanted to drill the holes that my screws would pass through and attach them to the brickwork. Rather than balance the pieces of CLS timber on the adjustable plate that comes on the drill press, I knocked together a quick feed-in system that made life so much easier. I'll not show you all 7, you get the idea after 3. Next I used a 22mm flat wood bit to recess a hole in each one of those pilot holes. This is to hold a washer, and the idea is that the screw that I pass through there will bite into that washer and pull it into the wood, rather than sinking into the wood and possibly splitting it. I envisage these shelves holding a lot of weight, so I didn't want to take any chances. I'm using a laser level line to mark for the bottom hole in each CLS timber. This is because my floor runs out, so it's pointless using that as my datum. This thin piece of MDF has the same markings on as the spacings for the holes in the CLS timber. All I have to do is line the bottom hole up on the MDF and use the laser level in its vertical position and mark off the holes onto the brickwork. And now on to the fun bit. We get to use the SDS drill. But please, don't forget to wear your eye protection. Just got to hammer some plugs into the wall. I know I'm going to enjoy the sound these make when I speed it up in the edit. I like to pop all my washers and screws into the holes and screw them down part way before I take them over onto the wall. That way I'm not scrabbling around in boxes and trying to hold one thing while placing the washer on and trying to screw the screw in and blah blah blah. Just makes it a little bit easier doing it this way. And now at last we can actually start attaching the CLS timber to the walls. I've popped the laser back on just to help me line up those bottom holes. After that, everything pretty much lines up smoothly. Pretty much. Now that all 7 supports are on the wall, we can get to making the brackets. I'd already used the track saw to cut the shelves down to the depth that I needed them to be. I managed to get 2 shelf depths out of 1 piece of ply. Now I'm going to cut the length and use the scrap edge to make my bracket supports. Back to cutting CLS timber now. I'm using my radial arm saw and a stop block to make quick and repeatable cuts. You might notice that some of the edges on these are quite rough, so before I send them towards the block, I just zip them off and then do my full length cut. You might also notice my last video before this one was all about the setup of my radial arm saw. This video predates that. This is just footage that I've had around for a while and decided to put it together. Over to the table saw now, where I'm running those ply offcuts to make my bracket supports. Unfortunately, I didn't have enough offcuts applied to make all of the supports, so it is going to be another trip to the hardware store to buy some more ply. Then I knocked together a quick jig so that I could pass the support blanks through the table saw to create the angle that I required. I wish I had a little bit more forethought on this point, because what I should have done was made those supports a little bit bigger. Then I could have used 1 diagonal cut to make 2 supports rather than having a whole bunch of little offcuts. Ah well, never mind. We live and we learn. Here they all are kind of lined up and mocked up to what they're going to look like once they've been glued and screwed. We're back over at the drill press now, again making pilot holes. Once I pilot holed the first one, I then use that as a template to drill through to the other ones. There is a left and a right, and the reason that I've done that is when I screw through it, I didn't want the screws to meet each other in the middle or past the middle, depending on what size screws I used. So each hole is slightly offset to the other side. Now it's time to put all the parts of the brackets together. I used the fence on my radial arm saw, brought forward with a stop block so that I had a nice straight edge for the top and something to put everything up against so it was all nice and flush. Apply a bit of glue, screw it all together, and turn it and repeat it from the other side, again with a fence set up and a stop block. Now we're really getting somewhere. We're ready to add our cantilever arms onto the CLS timber that we've attached to the wall. Like before, I'm using a laser line to get everything level rather than using the floors of the datum, which runs out by a country mile. Now that the bottom brackets are in place, I can do away with the laser lines and I can actually measure from my bracket to where I want my next bracket. But rather than using a tape measure, I cut 2 pieces of wood that I'll use to level from front to back. It also means when I come to do the third level, I can use them, and that way I know each bracket is spaced exactly the same all the way down the line. Once I'd got some of the brackets up, I was excited to see what the ply looked like laid on top of them. I was eager to see how much shelf space that I was going to have. It was then disaster happened. My battery ran flat. Anyway, I carried on without the camera rolling. I managed to finish all of the shelves, and once I'd done that, I started to put all of my garage equipment back on the shelves. It was at that point in time I realised how much stuff I actually did have, so I stripped it all off and I added some little 45-degree supports to each one of the cantilever brackets. I don't think that it would have needed it, but better safe than sorry.